The Velvet Hammer, good morning, Gene.
Good morning to you. The most important thing to talk about in the next 15 minutes is the word bafflegab. Now, you ever come across a word and you say, that cannot be in the dictionary? Come on, that's crazy. The word is bafflegab. The incomprehensible or pretentious verbiage, especially bureaucratic jargon.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that before. I just didn't know what it was called.
Bafflegab.
Yeah. Bafflegab. I'll have to remember that.
It's our talk. So we're listening to Biden this morning talk about how he's winning in all the polls. And the only thing I could think of was bafflegab.
Yeah, well, that's exactly. I mean, look, there's big problems coming for Joe Biden. Number one, did you see that Joe Manchin is not going to run for re-election? That means that seat is probably going to go Republican, number one. So there's your Senate right there. The Senate will, if everything stays the same, the Senate will go to the hands of the Republican. That's good. If we gain, any seats at all in the House, then we've got the House and the Senate. Okay, so what happens then? Even if Joe Biden gets reelected, he can't do anything. And I don't think Joe Biden's going to get reelected.
Yeah, I just don't know who he's listening to. Peter Doocy asks him about the polling. I must say this reporter, Peter Doocy on Fox News, has surprised me. He's posed objective questions from a network that obviously is more conservative, but he challenges the president, and even the president has a rapport with him of some sorts, especially because he might be losing in the polls when you see the New York Times and CNN stepping up to question the legitimacy of Biden winning the next election. You see that kind of exchange going on. Well, it's time for Biden to reach out and look for some other friends.
Yeah, you're exactly right. The other thing that's going on, I don't know if you saw this or not, but I wanted to bring this up this morning because it's pretty interesting when you look at this as even if you look at it as a standalone issue, it's something that people should be raising hell about in Washington, D.C., and apparently a couple are. Republicans in the Senate Judiciary Committee are investigating the DOJ for allegedly spying on congressional staffers. Now, this is against the law.
Yeah.
This is 100% against the law. You can't spy on U.S. citizens, especially, well, it's not especially, but, you would think especially somebody in the House of Representatives or the United States Senate.
Yeah, the 9/11 event years ago caused the loosening of the scope of the FISA warrants, and we saw a reach looking into domestically into potential wrongdoing. But it's clear DOJ has taken this off the rails. It's gone way too far, Michael. We have inappropriately spied on candidates for president and the entourage within their team. And, it's going to pay. There's going to be a consequence. I regret our system is a way painfully too slow to see justice come around.
We hope we live
back way too
to see
slowly.
it. Yeah, we hope we live to see it.
We hope we live to see it. And if I was to run for office, that's what I'd be fixing. The system that makes it too painful to see justice occur.
Yeah, well, I don't know how you do that. They set it up that way on purpose so that things move slowly. And if things move slowly, you have a lot more understanding of it. And I'll tell you, this impeachment proceedings are another, that's something else that we need to talk about, but that's something that's moving kind of slow. And the reason why is because they want everybody to be able to understand each and every issue that they keep bringing up about Joe Biden and how he's a criminal.
Yeah. House Oversight, Jim Comey came out Comer. Excuse me. I got Comey's the wrong guys.
Yeah, he's the
Comey
FBI
was
guy.
Specific, and he said there's way too much we've collected. We're going to dot the I's and cross the T's and be deliberate in our approach. It'd be nice to see it happen sooner than later, but we're going to make sure justice is served slow and carefully. Not like Pelosi, where she was jamming impeachments through every week on Trump without rhyme or reason, a lot of folks are seeing just how inconsistent the justice from the Democrats was of the Republicans. And Republicans are now being cautious not to be seen taking a vendetta. Instead, they're being deliberate in their approach to justice. I commend them for that. But to your first point, it's taking way too long. We got to move faster.
You know, it's interesting. I just got a text from a friend. And this is so true. It does move slow unless your name is Trump. Isn't that? Doesn't that make sense? I mean, we see everything is Trump these days. Everything is Trump. They want to do everything they can to put this guy in jail. And honestly, as we were discussing earlier, Ted and I mean, if Trump was there today, we wouldn't have maybe some of these problems, but not all of these problems for sure.
Yeah, there's been a complete injustice, and I hope that's what I meant, what I said earlier about if I was to run for office. That's the cleanup that needs on aisle 7. You need to make sure that justice and the execution of justice is blind and impartial from one side of the fence or the other. Hey, 247 hostages held by Hamas today. On the day tomorrow, the 248th anniversary birthday of the United States Marines.
Yeah,
I heard you mention that earlier, but two numbers side by side with totally different significance.
When I was in the Army, I remember standing around one time, and there was a group of Marines that were they were taking part in an exercise that we were doing. And one of my buddies in the Army said, you see that helicopter going over right there? And I was like, yeah, see that? He goes, you know what Marines call a helicopter? And I said, no, what? He goes, pointing up.
It sounds like another bafflegab.
I love Marines, man. Let me tell you something. I'll tell you, and this is we're totally changing the subject now, but I had a next-door neighbor who was a Marine recruiter who I am still friends with to this day. This guy is 100% Marine, and I love this guy more than anything in the world. He is so fantastic. And when you have a friend that's a Marine, you can always count on that guy when you need him. I promise you. And that's all I'll say about him. But he lives in Texas now, but via California. They sent him back to Camp Pendleton, and he ended up retiring out there and couldn't stay in California. He said, I hate this place. This is not America anymore, and moved.
Well, let's he's demoralized, and so are many. Let's, you and I and the rest of us, get out there and reinvigorate this nation's spirit of patriotism and the positive elements that have made this nation survive. It's not about me, it's about we. And anytime those politicians start talking, just ask yourself a question. Are they talking about me or we? And that'll tell you whether you want to vote for him or not. Another thing we got to fix, when the guy is not doing the job, when the evidence is pervasive and the preponderance of information shows wrongdoing, that he's been lining his own pocket at the expense of you and me, there's got to be a mechanism in place to take him out immediately, Michael. We can't wait, for the next election I'll vote him out. Nonsense. Things are moving too fast these days. Look at social media alone, how they can indict and try and convict someone in social media just by the way they control the broadcast of those putting out opinions or videos. It affects your ability to even free speech and speak openly.
It's funny, but I think at some point in the future, when they look back on this time period as, history, there will be a lot of discussion about how the social media groups sort of controlled the conversations of the day. And then came Elon Musk. God bless Elon Musk. He's an honest broker. And a lot of times he doesn't actually think like you and I. He's not, but he reminds me of the old classic liberal who you could actually have a conversation with. And you might actually believe that what he's saying might actually work, and you might want to work with him to try to make some changes that would be good for the country. But you can't do that anymore. And, of course, the polarization of this country is unbelievable. And CNN on one side, Fox on the other. I mean, I watch Fox because I like that. But, you know, CNN, Fox, you got the divide, and, you know, it's completely polarizing this country. I don't know. You know, I don't know if it wasn't better back in the days of Walter Cronkite, who was a liberal in his own right, but he would at least give an honest story.
My father knew Walter Cronkite, Eric Sevareid, Hartley and Brinkley, and my dad would be rolling over in his grave if he saw today the lack of responsibility in the journalists that report inflammatory commentary in their objective reporting to impact your opinion on the issue and steer your brain away from the facts of the issue. That's what's scary about today, and that's when the Supreme Court has to step up and really put some action plans in place if the Congress won't, putting declaratory judgments in place to set the standard that says this speech is wrong, this censorship is wrong, and there must be penalties in place for any outlet that denies such free speech.
Yeah, and I just hope that we get to that point where we actually can get a decision. But, you know, honestly, the Supreme Court anymore, it doesn't really matter. You know, the Supreme Court said that President Biden couldn't relieve any debt from the student loans. And what the hell did he do? He did it anyway. Yeah. What the hell's going on here? So the Supreme Court doesn't have an army and a law enforcement agency to go out and arrest him and tell him he can't do that. All they have is their opinion, which is, you know, they're a part of that third branch of government. And as soon as people start ignoring them, well, that's the end of our country.
Well, I mentioned in my second Bill of Rights, here's my plug again. The second Bill of Rights has in it, you'll find it on the website, guys. It's a comment about the supreme magistrates. Now, I'm not looking for more government. I want less government. But there's got to be an independent arm somewhere, devoid of politics and party affiliation, that comes in and really penalizes that person who is taking this nation into a direction, including justices that avoid the truth or steer justice on a political bent. If they're doing that, there must be consequences for people behaving in a non-objective way.
Yeah. Well, you know, 30 seconds left in this segment. I don't know if we solved any problems, but we certainly identified some.
Yeah, you brought up the Marines. What a testimony. The good thing is 248 years, the United States Marines, and here's Netanyahu, Prime Minister Netanyahu in Israel, thanking the United States of America today for having the chutzpah to step up and censure Rashida Tlaib in Congress.
I'm glad.
Crazy as we are, we still get it right.
Yeah, and even Democrats voted for that because she's crazy, right?
Yeah, and we got to get rid of those to bring us back to normal.
That's right. Hey, Gene, thank you for joining us, the Velvet Hammer down in Pensacola. Good morning to you, and have a great weekend.
It is 7:30. A Fox News break is next.